Good morning, friends. I am Deepak Kannad, the ex-dean of Faculty of Fine Arts, MS University of Baroda, and now of the course in Aesthetics in Philosophy for the PG course in Visual Arts. In the earlier session, we discussed the exponents of Rasa theory who have tried to offer different interpretations of Rasa Sutra of Bharata, and we discussed Bhatta Lolata, Bhatta Nayaka and Sri Shankuka. We also tried to see how Shankuka tries to incorporate the connoisseur in the aesthetic activity. There are many exponents who have commented on Rasa theory, but it is practically impossible to take note of each of them. And now we are going to discuss one of the most important scholars of the Indian scholastic tradition, that is Abhinav Gupta. We have already spoken about Abhinav Gupta when we talked about the theory of Indian aesthetic tradition, and I told you that he is considered to be a person of Kantian status who changed the inquiry, who changed the concern of Indian aesthetics. He is a person who has tried to comment on Rasa theory, who has commented on Dhvani theory, and as I told you before, he has contributed more than 75 books to the Indian scholarship. Now, he takes up some different issues than the other scholars to discuss, and one of the most important issue is when we are talking about the aesthetic experience. If Rasa is aesthetic experience, now we are not yet sure whether Bharata considered Rasa as the aesthetic experience or the aesthetic activity or the process of getting aesthetic experience. We talked about that debate earlier. But here, if it is to be taken as aesthetic experience, whether the experience of, is Bharata talking about the experience of the artist or the experience of the onlooker? Because if we are talking about aesthetic experience, the creator also gets some aesthetic experience out of it. It is not only the onlooker, it is not only the rasika who gets the rasa, the creator also gets the rasa. Otherwise he would not get involved in that. And is there a difference, basic difference, essential difference between the experience of the creator and the experience of the onlooker? Is a question which has been discussed by many scholars, including Abhinav Gupta's teacher, whose name was Bhatta Tauta. Bhatta Tauta is of the opinion that Nayakasya kavaye shrotu samanonubhavaha. Nayakasya kavaye shrotu samanonubhavaha. The actor, the writer and the spectator, all of them share the same experience according to Bhatta Tauta. Though Bhatta Tauta is Abhinav Gupta's teacher, Abhinav Gupta does not agree with his guru on this issue. He is of the opinion that aesthetic experience is a very, very special experience. It is an exalted experience which is possible only in an aesthetic activity. That is why he very vehemently states that Natye tu eva rasa natu loke. Natye tu eva rasa natu loke. The experience of rasa is possible only in art, only in, when he says Natye, we can take that statement as art. The aesthetic experience is offered only by art. No other activity, no worldly activity can offer you the same experience. So, Natak, the theatre, is certainly in a way an anukruti or as Bharata said, it is anukirtana of reality, anukirtana of everyday life. But the everyday life cannot offer the same experience to you. I can give you a very simple example, very ordinary example. If you see an old man on the road, watching that old man will not give you an aesthetic pleasure, or rather it may not give you pleasure at all. But a photograph of that old man can give you pleasure. Have you noticed it? A dried up tree may not look beautiful, but a painting of a dried up tree can look beautiful. So many a times the real object doesn't have rasa in it. Loka is the word. The worldly object doesn't have rasa in it. Only when it gets converted into an aesthetic statement, then it gets the capacity to offer you the rasa, the experience of rasa. That is what Abhinav Gupta is telling us. And again, there are so many other things which he has discussed. Along with this, he also differs from his guru when Bhattatauta said, Nayakasya kavaya shrotu samananubhava. Abhinav Gupta is of opinion, Kabir hi samajika tulya eva. Kabir hi samajika tulya eva. Tulya eva. It is not the same experience. Bhattatauta says it is samananubhava. It is the same experience. Abhinav Gupta says that the experience of the artist is comparable to the experience of the onlooker. There is a difference between the statement. And why? He has given several arguments in support of his statement. But one of the most important theories which he has put forward is the theory called Bija Vriksha Nyaya. If you remember, in the previous session, we talked about Chitra Turaga Nyaya. Shankuka discussed Chitra Turaga Nyaya. Abhinav Gupta is talking about Bija Vriksha Nyaya. Nyaya is analogy. So he has discussed many aspects of rasa theory, but one of the most important things that he proposed is known as Bija Vriksha Nyaya. Yesterday, we were talking about Chitra Turaga Nyaya. Chitra Turaga Nyaya was proposed by Sri Shankuka, and Abhinav Gupta is talking about Bija Vriksha Nyaya. This word Nyaya is interesting. Nyaya means analogy. Nyaya is not justice. Normally we use the term Nyaya for usko Nyaya Anyaya ho gaya. That in Sanskrit the original meaning of Nyaya is analogy. And to explain a particular thing, if analogy is used, that analogy is called as Nyaya. We talked about that example of a rope and a serpent. Somebody saw a rope and he thought that it was a serpent. That particular example is known as Sarparajju Nyaya. The theory which we discussed in Shankuka's theory is known as Chitra Turaga Nyaya. This is Bija Vriksha Nyaya, an analogy of the seed and the tree. In Bija Vriksha Nyaya, Abhinav Gupta says, Evam Moola Bija Sthaniya Kavigato Rasaha Tato Vriksha Sthaniyam Kavyam Tato Pushpa Sthaniya Abhinayari Nata Vyaparaha Tatra Phalasthanīya Samājika Rasasvadaha Tena Rasamayam Vishwam. Now, if we translate it literally, he says, the Moola Bija, we look into the Moola Bija, the original seed of this experience. Now he is talking about the aesthetic experience. The seed of that experience lies in the Kavigato Rasaha, that is, the rasa that lied in the artist's mind. When we raise the question that who exactly gets the experience of the rasa, Abhinav Gupta is of the opinion that each one of them, whoever is involved in the aesthetic activity, has an access to this aesthetic pleasure, aesthetic experience. So initially it starts with the rasa that is in the artist's mind, Kavigato Rasaha. So that is the seed of the whole experience. Tato Vriksha Sthaniyam Kavyam. The tree that sprouts of this seed is the Kavya. Now in this case, when he says Kavya, we will take it as a work of art. When he says Kavi, we will consider the Kavi as the artist. So from the artist's rasa, the tree that has sprouted is the work of art, Kavyam. Tato Vriksha Sthaniyam Kavyam. Tato Pushpa Sthaniyaha Abhinayadi Nata Vyapara. Which are the flowers of this tree? The tree is the work of art. But now he is talking about the theatre. So Abhinayadi Nata Vyapara, why Pushpa Sthaniya? What exactly is the role of flower in a reproductive process? The flowers attract the insects. So what attracts the people to the theatre? It is the acting of the actor. That is the most popular part of it. That is the most attractive part of it. And that is why he compares the flowers with the Abhinayadi Nata Vyaparaha. So, Tatra Pushpasthaniyaha Abhinayadi Nata Vyaparaha. Whatever the actor does is compared with the flowers of that tree. And because of that particular experience, once the spectator gets that experience, the whole process of fructification takes place. And Tatra Phalasthanīya Samājika Rasasvadaha. The fruit of this activity. So initially there is a seed which is the rasa in the artist mind. Then comes the tree, which flowers from it. The tree is the work of art. The abhinayadi nata vyaparaha, that is the interaction between the work of the art and the rasika, are the flowers of that activity. And once that interaction takes place between the aesthetic object and the connoisseur, that process gets fructified, that process becomes complete, and that is the fruit of it. Phalastaniya samajika rasaswada, the aswada of rasa which the samaj gets out of it, which the people get out of it, is the fruit of this activity, is the culmination of this activity, according to Abhinav Gupta. Tena rasamayam vishwam. Because of this, the whole Vishwa, the whole universe gets full of rasa. Now, in this process, we should realize that he is making a very interesting statement. On one hand, all the time these people have taken rasa as something autonomous, as if there is something called rasa which lies somewhere in the work of art and which is to be experienced by the onlooker. He is trying to understand rasa as a process. It is a process, and that is why when somewhere are we realizing that he is talking about metamorphosis. You know what metamorphosis is. In your school days, you must have heard about metamorphosis, that you must have studied the metamorphosis of a mosquito from an egg to a mosquito, or metamorphosis of a butterfly. The butterfly is born in the form of an egg. Then the larva comes out of it. Then the larva clears a pupa around it, and from that pupa, the butterfly comes out. It is the same thing. Apparently, the object is changing, but is it really a change? Isn't it the same object? Isn't it the same egg which got converted into a butterfly? It's very interesting. Metamorphosis is change of form, not change of essence. This is called law of conservation. Even in nature, there are so many metamorphosis, predetermined process, but there are so many other things also. Like if you burn the wood, it turns into ashes. So you have not destroyed the wood; it has only changed the form. So that is about the dead things. But in living things also, these things are changing forms, but it is the same essence which is taking another form. So there is no question of transportation. Earlier we talked about the transportation of rasa, that if the rasa lies in the artist mind, how does it get transported to the spectator? That was the question. And the answer which offered by some of the scholars is that it doesn't get transported at all. The Kavi has its own rasa, spectator has his own rasa, or perhaps the Kavi doesn't have rasa, the spectator doesn't have rasa, it is just an imagination. Now, Abhinav Gupta is proposing another possibility. He says that this rasa, it is the same rasa which keeps changing its form. It is like a seed which gets converted into a tree, which gets converted into flowers, which gets converted into fruits, and there is no question of transporting it. It is the pleasure remains the same. It is changing its form, which also means that the experience of the spectator is an autonomous experience. There is a scholar called Benedetto Croce. He proposed a theory called intuition, and in intuition he says we will talk about his theory at a later juncture when we discuss European aesthetics. But there is an interesting thing which he has discussed, that if the spectator doesn't have the genius, he will never be able to enjoy a work of art. When Picasso creates a painting, I also have the same qualities like Picasso, otherwise I would not have been able to enjoy Picasso's paintings. I enjoy Van Gogh because I also have the same genius which Van Gogh has, which simply means that the artist also has a creative genius. Similarly, the spectator too has to have a similar creative genius, otherwise the spectator will not be able to enjoy it. Abhinav Gupta is almost trying to tell us the same thing. And he is also suggesting one more thing, that when a creator creates a work of art, he gets his own pleasure. And when the spectator sees a work of art, his intuition gets awakened, and the pleasure which he gets out of it is his pleasure. If I want to explain it further, I know it is getting a little cryptic, but I will try to make it simpler. Suppose it is like a stimulus. I have my intuition, I have my imagination, and I create a work of art. When I create a work of art, and when you see that work of art doesn't give you the pleasure. Actually, that work of art creates another work of art in your mind. Because in reality, now you are practicing artist, and tell me frankly that when you create a work of art, what you have in mind and what you actually create, is it the same thing? When you think of creating something, the painting which you thought of, the painting which you conceived in your mind, and the painting you actually created on the canvas, do you think that the painting in your mind and the painting on the canvas always correspond with each other perfectly? It doesn't. It never does. Because the complexity of the thing that you conceived, all those complexities are practically impossible to be translated into tangible terms. So what I really created is the painting in my mind. What I created on the canvas is the reflection of that painting which I had in my mind. It is a lesser reflection that I created on the canvas. Isn't that true? Because you cannot achieve everything that you think that you really like. In case of music, what you want to sing and what you actually sing, there is a lot of difference, because you can think a very complex thing which you may not be able to actually produce. So what I produced is merely a reflection of the real work of art which I bear in my mind. So the pleasure that I got is the pleasure of that work of art which I conceived in my mind. Then I created another work of art. When the onlooker looks at it, when the connoisseur looks at it, actually that work of art creates another work of art in his mind. You get my point? So actually the spectator doesn't enjoy the work of art which is kept in front. It's a different experience from the same work of art. Why a single film is understood differently by different people? When you see a film and ask 10 people about that film, every person will come up with a different opinion. Why does this happen? Because the receiver of each individual is different. Do you get my point? The transmitter is different and the receiver is different. Each receiver is different and every receiver has a different capacity. So what I enjoy is my creation, not your creation. Your creation is merely a kind of stimulus for me. It stimulated my creation and I enjoy my creation. The fruit is mine. The seed was yours, but the fruit is mine. So it is quite similar to the. So this is actually, it is not Abhinav Gupta who put forward this terminology, but there is a very interesting terminology used in Indian aesthetics. They call it Karayatri Pratibha and Bhavayatri Pratibha. There are two different geniuses, there are two different talents which people have. That some people have the genius or the talent of creation. Some people have a genius or talent of connoisseurship, of receiving the work of art or enjoying the work of art. And that is why many a times even some of the best artists are not best onlookers. They are not अच्छा कलाकार है तो अच्छा रसिक होगा ये जरूरी नहीं. There are so many artists who do not understand art. They can create art, but they cannot talk about art. They cannot analyze art. They cannot comment on art. Why? Because they do not have the Bhavayatri Pratibha. They have only the Karayatri Pratibha. And some people can appreciate art. They can really go into the intricacies of any expression, but they cannot create because they are gifted with Bhavayatri Pratibha, not the Karayatri Pratibha. There are some who are gifted with both the things. There are some lucky people who have Karayatri and Bhavayatri Pratibha both, but everybody is not gifted with that. There is a very interesting example which I always tell my students, because many a times the problem of artist and the problem of onlooker becomes very complex. There is always a problem of intentional fallacy. The artist, when he creates, he has some intentions in mind and he expects the onlooker to understand his intentions, to understand that work of art in the light of his intentions. The spectator does not necessarily do that. he has a different intentions, he has different understanding of the world, and he interprets the work in his own way. So naturally there is always a debate. Many a times the artist gets offended if the critic writes something different than the things which he had in mind. He thinks that the critic didn't understand it. But actually it is not a question of understanding. The rasa which was triggered off in the critic's mind was different than the rasa which was present in the artist's mind. That is the only reason why the experience of the creator and the experience of the connoisseur can be different from each other. Now here he comes up with a very interesting alteration in the Rasa Sutra. Bharata said, Vibhavanubhav Vyabhichari Sanyogad Rasa Nishpatti. Nishpatti means creation. Abhinavagupta says that to create something, you have to have something. Like you cannot create anything out of nothing. Just a few minutes back we were talking about law of conservation. Similarly, we know that no matter can be created from nothing. A matter can change its form, but it cannot be totally destroyed or cannot be newly created. It can be converted. So if we are talking about creation of rasa, if we are talking about rasa nishpatti, then we will have to give an ontological status to the rasa, which is difficult. So what he says is the bhavas, if bhava is the raw material of rasa, if the rasa emerges from the bhavas are there in the artist's minds, fine. The artist has all the bhavas. But does that mean that I don't know the bhavas? I also have all the sentiments in my mind. When we are talking about the 8 sentiments or the 9 sentiments which have been discussed in rasa theory, feeling of mirth in your mind, you have the feeling of vismaya in your mind, you have the feeling of shoka in the mind. You are not feeling happy, or you are not feeling elated, or you are not feeling sorry, or you are not feeling dejected at this moment. You are in a different mood. But does that mean that you do not know what sorrow is? Does that mean that you do not know what laughter is? You are not laughing at this moment, you are not in a comic mood. But does that mean that you don't understand it? It is there. That feeling is there in your mind, but it is dormant. It is sleeping. When you see a work of art, suppose if you see a comic film at this moment, you are not in a mood to laugh at all, or you are not in a state of mind where you are in a very jovial state of. When you see a comic film, you start laughing because that particular bhava which was dormant, which was inactive in your mind, got activated. It got awakened. वो सोया हुआ जो वो मूड था वो जगाया गया, and then you started laughing. So the bhava is there in the rasika's mind, but it is in a dormant state. When you see a work of art, a particular bhava which the work of art has in it as sthayi bhava, that particular bhava gets awakened, gets activated in your mind, and you share the experience of the artist. So it is not the bhava of the artist that is reaching you. It is the bhava which you are carrying in your mind is being awakened. It is your bhava, it is not the artist's bhava. Do you get my point? So the artist is having his bhava. From that bhava he has created a work of art, and that work of art is poking your bhava and awakening it, activating it, and you are enjoying your sthayi bhava, which gets elevated to the rasa, to the level of rasa. You get my point? It's a very interesting theory, and that is why he says actually what happens is not rasa nishpatti, what happens is rasa jagrati. The rasa is there, it gets awakened. Vibhava anubhav vyabhichari sanyogat rasa jagrati, not rasa nishpatti. It gets awakened, the rasa gets awakened, bhava gets awakened, and I on my own reach the level of rasa, enjoy that rasa. It's a very different interpretation of rasa theory by Abhinavagupta. That is why Abhinavagupta has made many interesting observations. Actually, there are some very interesting things discussed in Kashmir Shaivism, which can distantly be related to rasa theory. It will not be possible for us to discuss all of them, but the 4 purusharthas, we have dharma, artha, kama, moksha as purusharthas. They have tried to associate these purusharthas also with different rasas. So Kashmir Shaivism has a very different philosophical tradition, and because of that tradition, Abhinav Gupta looks at rasa theory from a different perspective and proposes a different interpretation of it. Now, along with this, we cannot discuss all the things that have been proposed by Abhinav Gupta, but there are some very interesting things which we need to discuss in this context. He also talks about the notion called rasa abhasa. Rasa abhasa. Many a times you think that you are getting an aesthetic pleasure of a work of art. Some works of art look like works of art, but they are not works of art. They are very deceptive. Apparently, they have everything that a work of art needs, but it may fail to give you the real experience of rasa. How? He says that an experience like in a Hindi film, you must have seen this situation many a times, that the hero is declared dead. Actually, he is alive. Now, in Hindi films, we know everything. When the hero comes in a different appearance with a beard and a black mole on his cheek, we identify them, but the heroine doesn't. Though she has been living with him for years, she doesn't identify them. We can. Now now what happens? Apparently, in the film, the hero is dead. He is walking on the railway tracks, and then he sees a beggar and offers his coat to him. He sees a beggar with cold, and he offers his coat to him. The beggar gets killed, and because of the coat, people think that the hero is dead, and the heroine comes to know that the hero is no more. She is weeping. She is lamenting. Now we know that the hero is still alive. So all that lamenting and weeping does not create Karuna Rasa in our mind. Actually, weeping should create Karuna Rasa in our mind, but it doesn't. Because we know that the hero is still alive. So this is a rasa bhasa. It is an abhasa of a rasa, but actually not really a rasa. There is another possibility also which he discusses, that if the sthayi is anupasthita, to create the rasa, what exactly is the raw material of the rasa? When the sthayi gets upachita and gets elevated, then it reaches the level of rasa. But many a times the sthayi itself is not present in the whole process, and then the rest of the upayas cannot successfully create the rasa. The best example would be the Shringara between Ravana and Sita. You know, Sita was abducted by Ravana. Then Ravana takes her to Ashokvana, and every day he is trying to make her different offers. He is ready to give her anything, make her the patrani or whatever it may be, all his offers. Now he has abducted. If we say that abducting the heroine is a crime, then we know that Krishna has abducted Rukmini. Arjuna has abducted Subhadra. If Arjuna does that, अगर अर्जुन सुभद्रा हरण करता है and if that is permissible, if Krishna does Rukmini haran and that is permissible, why can't Ravana do Sita haran and be happy with it? It doesn't happen for a simple reason that between Rukmini and Krishna there was a sthayi bhava of rati. Between Arjuna and Subhadra there was a sthayi bhava of rati. Here the sthayi bhava is absent. It is present in Ravana's mind, but it is absent in Sita's mind. And because the sthayi bhava is absent, what will get upachita? What exactly will get elevated to the level of rasa? जो चीज है ही नहीं, उसको हम रस तक पहुंचाएंगे कैसे? Do you get the point? So the anupasthiti of the sthayi can also lead to rasabhasa. So apparently, all those sweet talks by Ravana, all those offers by Ravana, all that submission by Ravana appears like a submission of a lover, but it is not so because the sthayi is absent over there. This is also an example of rasabhasa. There is no rasa. All that Shringara, this will not end up into Shringara. The rati is there, but the rati is one-sided rati, and that is why that rati will not result into Shringara rasa. It will only be an abhasa of Shringara, not a real Shringara. So there are examples of rasabhasa. There are so many works of art which pretend to be works of art, but they are not works of art. Now this is here the examples which I gave are from real time art, but there are also many works of art which look like works of art, but the artist fails to create the rasa because because the core sthai bhava is absent over there. Along with this rasa bhasa, Abhinav Gupta also talks about one more interesting possibility, which he calls Sapta Rasa Vigna. Sapta Rasa Vigna, 7 obstacles. Now, on one hand, we could see that there is a possibility of rasa bhasa. Many a times, because there are some lackings, some flaws in the work of art, the artist fails to give the experience of rasa to the spectator. And what are those possibilities? Abhinav Gupta has discussed 7 such possibilities which can deprive you from getting the experience of rasa. So the first one, he calls it Sapta Rasa Vigna, 7 obstacles of getting the experience of rasa. The first one which he talks about is Sambhavana Viraha. There is a long list, but I think the third one should be discussed in the beginning, because I think the Rasa Vigna starts from that particular Vigna. The third one is listed as Vivashata or Vivasha. Vivasha, which means self-indulgence or preoccupation. Self-indulgence or preoccupation. Now you are going to see a play, and on your way, if you are traveling through Agra, it's quite possible that you will get stuck in the traffic jam, and now you are in a mood to see the play, but get stuck into the traffic jam. By the time you reach the theatre, the play has already started. You rush into the theatre, occupy your chair. On the way, you trample over so many people's feet and get a good this thing from them. And by the time you reach your chair, the play has already started. Are you really in a mood to enjoy that play at that juncture? Will you be able to respond to that play? It is practically impossible. You are mentally unprepared to respond to a work of art. And Bharata says that this is very normal, because every time we try to approach a work of art, there are so many preoccupations we have. We have our own problems, we have our own occupations, and naturally when we go to the gallery or go to the theatre, we are engaged with our own problems, we are indulgent with our own problems, and when we reach over there, we are not mentally prepared to confront a work of art. He suggests to the, now again we are talking about theatre, so he suggests to the theatre people that under such circumstances, the theatre people should not make the rasika to confront the work of art directly. Instead, there should be an interlude. And that is why in ancient drama, if you see the medieval drama or ancient drama, there used to be a pravesha of the Sutradhara and Nati. So there will be some music, then Lord Ganesha will come and dance in front of you, then Sutradhara will come, he will talk to the Nati. There will be some meaningless conversation between Sutradhara and Nati. By that time, the people come down to normal level. They get prepared for the work of art to be presented to them, and then the work of art starts. These interludes are very important. Because of these interludes, people get prepared for the aesthetic experience. Now this is the Rasa Vigna called Sambhav. This is the Rasa Vigna called Vivashata, and he also suggests the way to overcome it. The other Rasa Vigna which he suggests is Sambhavana Viraha. Sambhavana Viraha is violating the logic or violating the rules of probability. there are quite a films which you might be seeing these days, that particularly in South Indian films I have seen it, that the hero easily fights with 50 people at a time, and all those 50 people are loaded with arms, and this person with bare arms can destroy all 50 of them. I have also seen a hero lifting a bullock cart and throwing it at those people. Now, all these things, we enjoy watching it because it is quite entertaining, but at the same time, we cannot accept it as a work of art. It is an entertainer. We call it an entertainer. कि ठीक है, we 3 घंटे मजे में गए. But if somebody asks you that is it a good film, so you will say नहीं, ठीक है. So this is also a rasabhas. Apparently it is a work of art, but it is not actually a work of art, because there is a major rasa vigna which is known as sambhavana viraha, improbability. Now it is violating the rules of probability. It is showing something which is impossible. Now, if you want to overcome this particular rasa vigna, then you will have to show everything which is probable, like a good film, that only show those things which are possible, which are probable. Or the other possibility is, if you are keen to show all these things, if you want to show all these heroics in your film, then you will have to portray your hero as a superhuman. Now, if you are watching Ramayana, and if Hanuman fights with 50 people, you don't get disturbed, because Hanuman is portrayed as a person with superhuman powers. Right in the beginning, the artist has told you, the playwright has told you that you are watching a hero who is a superhuman hero. So if the hero or the protagonist is portrayed as a person with superhuman powers, then this particular rasa vigna may not trouble you. Otherwise, sambhavana viraha can be a very troublesome rasa vigna. It can spoil your experience of rasa. The next one is very interesting. I think that is the most important rasa vigna which Abhinav Gupta talks about, and it is almost a discussion in psychoanalysis. He says swagata paragata pratiti is a major rasa vigna. Swagata paragata pratiti. People always have. Now this has been talked about by Freud. When Freud tries to differentiate between entertaining literature and real literature, he has given this particular point, that normally people have a habit of associating the protagonist with your own ego. If the female viewers will associate the female protagonist with them, and the male viewer would associate the male protagonist with them. And that is why people never want the hero to die. You know that there are so many films. One of the most popular films, James Bond. You know that there were several films of James Bond. And in one of the films, Ian Fleming, the author of James Bond, portrayed James Bond being killed. He died. People hated that film. They compelled Ian Fleming to change the end of that film, and then Ian Fleming showed in the next film that he did not die. He lost his memory. He went to an island, and then the memory was revived, and he came back. Because why people did not want him to die? Because they associated themselves with James Bond, and this is a very, very common feature. Why these Saas Bahu films, Saas Bahu serials are getting so popular? Because all the Saase of the family are associating themselves with the Saas in the serial, and all the Bahus from the family are associating themselves with the Bahus. This pratiti, swagata pratiti, associating your ego with the protagonist is a very dangerous thing, because now what you are enjoying is not the work of art. You are enjoying your own sentiments. What you are doing is pampering your sentiments, not seeing the film. The film doesn't mean anything to you. You are not watching that Bahu, you are watching yourself over there. And that is why if something goes against your will, you don't like it. You do not justify it. So this kind of swagata, sometimes it happens the other way around also. There is a paragata pratiti also. The Bahu will see the Saas on the screen and associate that sas with her sas. So that is a paragata pratiti. Associating yourself is swagata pratiti, associating somebody else is paragata pratiti, and these pratitis can lead to an unnecessary involvement, unnecessary indulgence in the work of art. The work of art has to be seen with a certain distance. If you keep the book at this distance, you will not be able to read it. If you want to read a book, you have to keep it at a distance. Similarly, if you really want to enjoy a work of art, you have to keep the work of art at a distance, but the distance is psychic distance, the psychical distance. Psychologically, the work of art should be a little away from you. If you get involved in it, you can never enjoy it. People get so involved in it that they start giving instructions to the protagonist. They some women start weeping during the films, as if they know that what is happening on the screen is not real, and still they respond as if something. If the work of art is leading to an action, it is a failure work of art. The work of art should be taken as a work of art. Now, some people say that one of the villains of Marathi theatre was such a great actor that whenever he used to come out of the come out of the theatre, people used to slap him or people used to throw slippers at him. Now, this is not a success of the hero, because the people are forgetting that the person on the proscenium is a different person and the person who walked out of the theatre is a different person. An actor must be taken as an actor. If the onlooker forgets this, then the play is a failure. The work of art is a failure. There has to be a psychical distance between the onlooker and the work of art. If it is not there, it is a very important rasa vigna. And that is why he also talks about the tatastha and tadatmya. If you totally get disinterested in the work of art, then you will not be enjoying it. On one hand, he is advising you not to get involved in the work of art. Does that mean that you should look at it without thinking at all about their emotions? Then perhaps you will not enjoy the work of art at all. So the involvement has to be there, but the involvement should be up to a certain level. So there has to be a balance between the tatastha. You know the word tatastha. Tatastha matlab indifferent. So the indifference has to be there, but at the same time there has to be tadatmya also. So there has to be a perfect balance between the tadatmya and the tatastha. Then only you can enjoy a work of art in the real sense. If you fail to understand this, then that is a major rasa vigna. So swagata paragata pratiti is a very important rasa vigna. Then Vaikalya. Here he also talks about sadharanikaran. Many times what happens, you cannot, to save you from this swagata paragata pratiti, the protagonist can be portrayed so powerful that the onlooker would not dare, so powerful or so different that the protagonist would not dare to associate himself with the protagonist. The onlooker would not dare to associate himself with the protagonist. I'll give you an example. Okay, there is a play called Oedipus Rex. We will talk about Oedipus Rex once again when we discuss catharsis, but I'll just give you a clue at this juncture. Oedipus Rex is a story of a king who killed his own father. We'll talk about it in details when we discuss catharsis, but it is a story of a king who killed his father, not knowing that the king is his father. And obviously in those days, it was a usual practice that if a king attacks another kingdom and kills the king, all the queens from that harem used to be the queens of the new king. Now this man doesn't know that the king whom he is attacking is his father. He kills his father and marries all his queens. And obviously he marries his mother also. Now this is a great tragedy. This is an unbelievable tragedy. Now here the onlooker may not dare to associate himself with the protagonist. So when the hero is exalted on a different level, or no spectator would, barring the young children, would dare to associate themselves with Hanumanji if they are watching a film on Hanuman, or they will not associate they will not associate themselves with Superman if they're watching Superman or Rama or Lord Shiva, whatever it may be. So what he suggests, that to avoid this Swagata Paragata Pratiti, you can portray the protagonist so powerful and so elevated that the distance between the onlooker and the protagonist should be widened. But in that process, there is a possibility that the onlooker would fail to empathize with the protagonist. The distance between the protagonist and the onlooker would be so much that the onlooker will not be able to enjoy it. And for that, Sadharanikaran is again necessary. We talked about Sadharanikaran earlier, but Abhinav Gupta is talking about different kind of Sadharanikaran. He says the same thing, that if we are talking about the Sthalakala of the Nata and the Sthalakala of Rama are different. Now, Rama was born in Ayodhya. The play which I am watching is in Mumbai. So the Sthalakala of Rama's birth was Ayodhya, but here Rama is being born in Mumbai. The Kala is different. Rama was born in a different Kala, and the Nata is being born in a different Kala. So naturally, I am watching something, and it is very difficult for the onlooker to associate with all these things. One of the possibilities, like Shankuka's Chitraturaganyaya, he has kept all his wisdom away, all his intellect away for some time to enjoy the play. But every time it doesn't happen. Every time you cannot do that. So under these circumstances, to avoid this kind of distancing, there is a possibility that Rama is brought down to a Sadharana level. Though the Sthalakala is different, the behavior of Rama is exactly like a behavior of the Nata, or the behavior of the Nata is like the behavior of the Rama. Because of that association, because of that Sadharanikaran, it becomes possible for the onlooker to relate with the protagonist and enjoy the play, but not get indulgent. He can relate with the protagonist. He can enjoy the emotional turmoil of the protagonist, but he does not associate his ego with the protagonist. This is another possibility which Abhinav Gupta has talked about. Then comes Vaikalya. Vaikalya or Upaya Vaikalya. Vikala means weak. विकल कहते हैं ना, उसका शरीर विकल हो गया. Upaya is, now you have, if you want to create a work of art, you have many devices, you have many skills that you employ to create what you want to create. Now you want to make a portrait. If you do not have the capacity to make a portrait, or when you are making a landscape, if you do not have a capacity to use watercolors efficiently, if you want to sing, and if you don't have the caliber to produce the voice, produce the tunes which are needed for that particular composition, you will not be able to create a work of art. To put it in simple terms, to create a work of art, only the thought of the work of art is not enough. Only the concept of work of art is not enough. You have to have the caliber, the technical caliber to create that work of art. That is called upaya. If you don't have those upayas, you cannot create a work of art. There is a very interesting story. Like in 19th century, there was a painter called Courbet, and once while talking to his poet friends, you know Courbet, he was a realist painter, and once while talking to his poetry, because I have fantastic ideas in my mind, his poet friend said that, my friend, poetry is not written only with ideas, you need words for them. Similarly, if you want to carve a sculpture, only an idea of sculpture is not enough. You have to have the skill to carve the stone. If you want to create a painting, only idea is not enough. You have to have a command on the brush. Now in 20th century, these ideas are changing. Now you can employ a carver or employ a painter to paint the things and get it done from outside agencies. But we are talking about hardcore art. So there you have to have the ability to translate your ideas in tangible terms. If you do not have those skills, then your work of art can fail. So Upaya Vaikalya is one of the Rasa Vignas. it will kill the rasa. It will prevent the spectator from getting the rasa. Then asphutata. Asphutata is ambiguity, or asphutata is understatement. Some works of art are such that you keep wondering what exactly this artist is trying to say. Now, those works are so subtle, those works are so understated that all the time the spectator keeps wondering, what is it? What does he want to say? Many of the art films are like that the spectator doesn't understand what the director wants to say in that film. Now, this kind of asphutata can be a problem in offering the aesthetic experience to the spectator, and that is why the artist will have to be clear about his expression. Now, in contemporary times, this asphutata is not considered to be a rasavigna, because ambiguity now has become an asset of a work of art. Now, things are changing, and we know that sometimes ambiguity can be very paying in an aesthetic expression. Then the sixth rasavigna which he talks about is aprastuta pradhanya. Aprastuta pradhanya. Now, there is a play like Hamlet. I don't know whether you people have read or heard about this play, which is a tragic play. It is a play of it is a story of a young prince whose mother has deceived him. His mother is in love with his uncle, and with the help of his uncle, she kills her husband, and that uncle gets the throne. Hamlet comes to know about it, and then all the turmoil in his mind, all the emotional trauma that he undergoes is the subject of that play. Now, in this play, it is called psychic relief. In such a play, there are some scenes where there is some humor. Now, in that play, Hamlet's father comes as a ghost. His father's ghost comes and tells this story to Hamlet. So when the ghost comes on the scene, you see those the chowkidars, the gatekeepers, and they get frightened, and some humor is created from their conversation. Now, if that humor becomes too much, probably it will spoil the impact of the play. Now, humor is a part of that play, but it must not be given unnecessary importance. A work of art must be balanced, and the concerns of the work of art, the central focus of the work of art should be maintained properly. Otherwise, many a times, I remember there is a beautiful equestrian statue of Sayajirao Gaikwad in Baroda. It's very beautifully made. One of my friends who doesn't know much about art was praising that statue to me, and he said कि उसका लगाम जो बनाया है वो बिल्कुल असली लगाम लगता है. Now, what are you appreciating? Are you appreciating the lagam or the statue? Now, he is concentrating on the lagam. Now, this is called aprastut pradhanya. He is not actually concentrating on the real thing. He's focusing on something else. This kind of pradhanya can spoil the aesthetic pleasure, and that should be avoided by the artist. The artist should take due care that people don't concentrate much on the unnecessary areas and focus on the core of the work of art. And the seventh is samshaya, doubt. If the spectator keeps doubting the intentions of the artist, if he creates a doubt that what exactly the artist is trying to say, it is very similar to asphutata, not very different from that. So that if the anubhava, vibhava and sthayi bhava, if the relationship between these different bhavas is confused, it creates a doubt in the spectator's mind, and that is why all these bhavas should be treated carefully by the artist in his work of art. So these are the 7 possible obstacles in getting the aesthetic pleasure which should be avoided by the artist. Now this is almost a kind of handbook for the artist to avoid the aesthetic pleasure. All the time we were talking about the aesthetic pleasure of the spectator. Now for the first time we can see that the scholar is giving some concrete instructions to the artist. So it's a very interesting approach. Abhinav Gupta has many other important things. He has said many other important things, which too call for a very serious attention. But in this small session, we will not be able to discuss all those things in details. So this almost covers our session on theory of rasa. We will be referring to rasa theory again and again in some other context also. While talking about Dhwani also, we will have to come back to rasa, because rasa is one of the core theories in Indian aesthetic discourse, and we will come back to it at some later answer also.